reflecting on the past, the present, and looking towards the future as the Scottish Parliament holds its final debate on the UNCRC Incorporation Scotland Bill, 7th of December 2023.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm 12 years old and I'm with the Human Rights Detectives.
How have you been involved in the campaign for the UNCRC bill?
I done Rights Right Now when I was 10 and I worked with the Human Rights Bill team.
What are your hopes for the future of the UNCRC Incorporation Scotland Bill?
For Scotland to be the fairest and kindest place for children in Scotland. I'm Oscar, I'm 13 and I'm a member of the Human Rights Detectives.
How have you been involved in the campaign for the UNCRC bill?
I've been with the project for a year now and we first worked on the UNCRC bill with the bill team getting that incorporated into Scottish law, and now we're working with the Human Rights Bill team getting the Human Rights Charter into Scottish law.
What are your hopes for the future of the UNCRC Incorporation Scotland bill?
I hope that children and young people's views and opinions will be taken seriously in future decisions made by the government and will have more of an involvement in the decision-making process.
Hi everyone, my name is Daisy Stewart Henderson and I'm a former member of the Scottish Youth Parliament and convener of the Scottish Youth Parliament's External Affairs UK and International Relations Committee, and it was within those roles that I was one of two MSYPs who travelled to Geneva in February and again in May of 2023 to speak to the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child regarding UNCRC incorporation in Scotland and other children's rights issues within Scotland. So being involved in the campaign in this way was a really powerful way of sharing my voice and the voice of the young people that I represented at the time on as high a level as you can really, and I feel really privileged to have been able to represent children's rights on that level. But equally, I hope now that we are at a stage where we're finally beginning to see progress. My experience at the UN was incredibly positive, and I hope that December 7th will see the end of the limbo period regarding the UNCRC in Scotland that's been going on for so long. The bill initially passed when I was 15 years old. I now am at a point where I'm 18 and I no longer live in Scotland, so it's completely irrelevant to me, and I just hope that this will not be the case for any more children and young people, and that we're finally in the final stage and that we can finally see progress. So my hopes are high and I'm really excited to see the result of the debate and hopefully UNCRC incorporation in Scotland at long last.
Hi, I'm Ellie. I'm the Vice Chair of the Scottish Youth Parliament and MSYP for Glasgow Cathcart. I've been involved in campaigning for the UNCRC bill in a number of ways since being elected as an MSYP in 2019. When the bill was passed unanimously in the Scottish Parliament in 2021, this was a massive achievement and rightly celebrated. But since then, the bill was legally challenged and people in the Scottish Government have been working to bring the bill back. Recently, I met with Shirley-Anne Somerville to discuss the bill and how children and young people need to be meaningfully involved throughout the process of implementation. My hope for the future of the bill is that there will be a culture change and that Scotland becomes a place where children's rights are not just upheld, but we value and respect them too. I also hope that every child and young person will become aware of their rights and is empowered to call out when they are not being upheld properly.
Hi, my name's Jack, I'm 21 years old and I am a fourth year law student at the University of Glasgow. I've been involved with the campaigning for the UNCRC Incorporation Scotland Bill for quite some time now. I've worked with organisations like Children in Scotland Together and the Scottish Youth Parliament ever since I was about 15 or 16, so it's an issue that's really close to my heart. Something that I'm really excited for is the possibility of strategic litigation, using court cases to change the law, kind of catching areas that maybe people drafting the legislation didn't realise needed to be caught. So as someone who's going to be practicing law in the future, I think that's going to be a really exciting space to watch, and I hope to be involved with it somehow.
Hello, my name's Suki. I currently work for third sector human rights and equalities as a development officer. I also work for the Scottish Youth Parliament as an equality and diversity lead. I'm currently 26 years old, which means I've been involved in the campaign for incorporation for about 9 years at this point. I became involved when I was elected to the Youth Parliament as an MSYP when I was 17. I was really privileged to be chair of the organisation when we ran our Right Here, Right Now campaign to incorporate the UNCRC into Scots law, and that took us on an international level of campaigning when we went out to Geneva for the Day of General Discussion. We spoke about rights on an international stage, and that was a really, really powerful and meaningful event. At a national level, we held our rights review where we had 50 MSYPs in a room with government officials speaking about their experiences with rights, sometimes the lack of rights, just for a few hours, and we got to do that for a big group of government officials and speaking to them one-on-one about the experiences that we had had as young people and why we felt the need for rights protections in law in order for us to feel secure, for us to feel fulfilled and protected on many levels. Those are just some of the things that we had done. I also worked with Together on their Right Time blog series, again looking at different experiences of rights across Scotland where they had been respected and often where they hadn't been respected. Those are just some of the things that I've been involved in, but I've always been very grateful to be part of this wonderful community of human rights defenders up and down Scotland who've worked tirelessly on incorporation for I don't even know how many years. And it's really great that we're at this point now, hopefully the last hurdle in our journey towards making children's rights a reality in Scots law in Scotland. But of course, this obviously isn't the end of the journey. There's much more to go, even after the bill hopefully comes into force. My hopes for the future of the incorporation bill are probably the same as they were 9 years ago when I first started to become involved in all of this, and that I really want the UNCRC to be as strong a foundation for the lives of children and young people as they are the ground that they walk upon. And by that, I hope that there's something tangible, there's something meaningful, that you can see rights, that you can feel rights, that you can you can understand that rights are something that are protecting you in your life in lots of different ways. And for that just means knowing your rights, knowing that adults around you know that you have rights as well, and for that to be as understood as language, as understood as, living and breathing, all these different things that we take for granted. I hope that we can hopefully get to a point where we also take rights for granted, because there's something that are just so automatically done, and maybe that's quite a long way off from that point, but that's really my hope for this bill, that it brings us one step closer to that reality where rights are just rights, they're just something that we have because we're human. That's really my hope for the bill, and that it brings us one stage closer to that future. I hope everyone who has been part of this journey in the last however many decades is really proud of themselves for being part of this community. We've got a lot more work to do. I think this is a moment for celebration, to give ourselves a little bit of a pat on the back. So thank you.
My name is Joe Mason, and I'm a human rights advocate. I've worked at UNICEF, currently work at Action for Children, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Scottish Child Law Centre. I first started campaigning for the UNCRC aged 17, and today I'm 24. I was first involved in 2017 in a series of seminars aimed at understanding what our options were in Scotland, what levers we had to drive change, and how to build a political will to make it happen. Since then, I've worked throughout the children's rights sector, campaigning using the Year of Young People 2018, lobbying several children's ministers, and travelling from London to Brussels and all across Scotland, using children's own words to advocate why this legislation is so important. My hope from this moment is that the next 10 years of implementation are collaborative, offer a real chance for change, and make a meaningful difference in children's lives to banish things like poverty, which hamper their prospects so much. And for me, that means my kids could grow up in really the best place in the world to be a child.
My name's Juliet Harris, or Jules, and I'm the director of Together, the Scottish Alliance for Children's Rights. I'm 47 years old, and for 14 of those years I've been working alongside children and young people to campaign for UNCRC incorporation. And those 14 years have been hard work, but they've also been great fun. During this time, I've been out to Geneva with children and young people to give evidence to the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child and take part in days of general discussion. I've worked alongside legal experts to make sure that we have a law in Scotland that prevents children's rights from being breached from the outset, as well as making sure that children and young people can go to the courts in the most serious of cases. I've even marched down the Royal Mile with children and young people, marching to Parliament to make sure that children and young people's rights are respected. And I've been doing this work because I have hopes and dreams very much like the children and young people that I work with. We really hope that there's a real culture change in Scotland so that children and young people are listened to, they're valued, their opinions are taken into account in decisions that affect them, and really that Scotland becomes a really child-centred, child-focused country. And I know from the children and young people that I work with that this hope isn't just for the children and young people now, but this is the hope that children and young people are treated with dignity and respect in Scotland for very many more generations to come.
Hi, what a great day. My name's Cam Bailey, and I was Scotland's Commissioner for Children and Young People between 2009 and 2017. And I've been working with and on behalf of children and young people for more than 40 years. And when I started, the UNCRC didn't exist. That didn't mean that children didn't have the rights. It's just that we didn't frame it in the convention that's now known as the UNCRC. And importantly, governments and organisations didn't need to uphold children's rights. But now they do. And in Scotland, we've just strengthened the legal obligations to uphold those rights. It's taken a long time to get there, and it's been a bumpy road. But I'm proud to have played a part, along with the thousands of adults, children and young people who've contributed to keep up the pressure for the better realisation of children's rights in Scotland. We can't let up. It's just another step along the way. But today's a great step forward, and together we continue to make improvements in children's rights. Enjoy the day, enjoy the passage of the bill, and well done all, especially the children and young people that have contributed to it. Thank you.
I'm Bruce Adamson. I'm Professor in Practice in Children's Rights and Human Rights at the University of Glasgow School of Law. I'm 47 years old, which means that most of my childhood was before the Convention on the Rights of the Child was created. And over the last 20 years, I've been campaigning in Scotland to ensure that children's rights are better protected and promoted. And incorporating the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child into law is the most important thing that we can do to ensure that children's rights are respected, protected, and fulfilled. The Convention on the Rights of the Child is the most beautiful international legal document. It builds on the foundations of the Charter of the UN, which puts human rights right at the heart of building a better world. And it breathes life into the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which said that childhood was a time of special care and protection. And so I can think of nothing more fitting as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights than Scotland taking this next step to incorporate the Convention on the Rights of the Child. It's hugely important to incorporate rights because only through the accountability and justiciability that comes with incorporation, only through providing those extra tools to those who are responsible for protecting, respecting and fulfilling children's rights, do we know that that change really comes. And we know from countries that have already taken this step that the culture change leads to better outcomes for children and young people. I think that the text of the convention is hugely important. And so my memento that I want to share is the little red book that we created when I was Children and Young People's Commissioner Scotland. It's been so important to me to see people use the text and understand the text, and particularly for young human rights defenders, the important role that child human rights defenders have played in the campaign for incorporation, but in so many other issues as well, has been really inspiring. And that's one of my biggest hopes for the future, is that we're able to better support children to understand their rights and to use their rights and to fight for their rights and the rights of others. Child human rights defenders in Scotland inspire me, and this is going to be an amazing tool for them to work alongside decision makers to effect real change on the issues that matter to them, like poverty, like climate change, like mental health, and like so many other issues. So today is a day to really celebrate, to reflect and connect as we recognise the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration and look forward to having the Convention on the Rights of the Child in our domestic law and being able to use it to make a change.
Hi everybody, I'm Nicola and I'm the current Children and Young People's Commissioner for Scotland. I just want to say a huge congratulations and well done to every child and young person who has worked tirelessly to get us to this day. My office and the previous commissioners have been working alongside you to see us here. This will give children and young people in Scotland greater power and greater protection. It will continue the culture change that has already started to work towards a future where all children and young people can enjoy all of their rights. I really look forward to meeting more of you, to talking to you, to listening to you, and to working with you to ensure that happens in the future. But for today, enjoy it. Congratulations.
Thank you to everyone who participated in the making of this film, reflecting on the past, present, and looking towards the future as the Scottish Parliament holds its final debate on the UNCRC Incorporation Scotland Bill.